Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we are diving deep into the life of one of the most complex and fascinating figures in Chinese history, Cao Cao. Was he a brilliant hero or a ruthless villain? By the end of this video, you might just have a better idea. So grab your popcorn and let's journey back to the final chaotic years of the Han Dynasty. Cao Cao was born in 155 AD in what is now Anhui province. His father, Cao Song, was the adopted son of a powerful court eunuch, Cao Teng. This connection gave the family significant influence and wealth, but it also came with a bit of a social stigma. Back then, being associated with eunuchs wasn't exactly a badge of honor. From a young age, Cao Cao was known for being clever, resourceful, and a bit of a troublemaker. A famous story tells of a physiognomist who told him, "You would be a capable minister in a time of peace, and an unscrupulous hero in a time of chaos." As it turns out, chaos was just around the corner. As a young man, Cao Cao entered the civil service. He wasn't one to just go with the flow, though. He was strict and wasn't afraid to enforce the law, even against powerful families. This earned him a reputation for being decisive, but also made him some powerful enemies. The Han court at the time was a mess. Corrupt officials and eunuchs held sway, and the emperor was little more than a puppet. The central government's authority was crumbling, and the entire country was a powder keg waiting to explode. The spark came in 184 AD with the Yellow Turban Rebellion. This massive peasant uprising, fueled by famine and government corruption, swept across the land. The Han court, unable to handle it alone, called upon regional warlords and officials to raise armies and put down the rebellion. This was Cao Cao's moment to shine. He raised his own militia and proved to be an exceptional military commander. While the Yellow Turbans were eventually suppressed, the crisis had a lasting effect. It handed immense military power to regional warlords who now had their own private armies and weren't too keen on giving them up. The power vacuum at the capital was soon filled by a tyrannical warlord named Dong Zhuo. He deposed one emperor, installed another, and basically ran the show from behind the throne, treating the capital city like his personal playground. This outraged many of the regional lords, who formed a coalition to challenge him. Cao Cao was one of the most passionate members of this coalition. He even attempted a solo assassination of Dong Zhuo, which failed and forced him to flee. The coalition army, though impressive on paper, was plagued by infighting and a lack of unified command. It eventually fell apart without achieving its goal. Disappointed but not defeated, Cao Cao realized he couldn't rely on others. He needed to build his own power base. He spent the next few years consolidating his control over Yan province. A key move during this time was his decision to recruit and integrate the remnants of the Yellow Turban forces. Instead of just defeating them, he offered them a place in his army and land to farm. This Tuntian system, or agricultural garrisons, was a stroke of genius. It ensured his troops were well fed and his territory was productive, giving him a stable foundation that many of his rivals lacked. Cao Cao's most brilliant political maneuver came in 196 AD. The Han emperor, Emperor Xian, had escaped the clutches of Dong Zhuo's successors and was essentially a refugee. While other warlords hesitated, seeing the emperor as more of a liability than an asset, Cao Cao saw the opportunity. He welcomed the emperor to his own base in Shu City. By doing this, he gained immense legitimacy. He wasn't just another warlord anymore, he was the protector of the Han court. Now, he could issue edicts in the emperor's name, giving him a huge political advantage. His famous motto was, "Hold the Son of Heaven to command the nobles." Essentially, he controlled the emperor to control the empire. With the emperor on his side, Cao Cao launched a series of campaigns to unify northern China. His main rival in the north was the powerful Yuan Shao, who controlled a vast and resource-rich territory. The two were destined for a showdown. This came in the year 200 AD at the Battle of Guandu. On paper, Yuan Shao should have won. He had a much larger army and more resources. But Cao Cao was a master strategist. He used deception, surprise attacks, and brilliant tactics to outmaneuver his opponent. The decisive moment came when he led a daring raid on Yuan Shao's main supply depot at Wuchao, burning it to the ground. With their supplies gone, Yuan Shao's massive army collapsed. The victory at Guandu was a turning point. It cemented Cao Cao's position as the dominant power in northern China. Over the next few years, Cao Cao cleaned up the remaining resistance in the north, defeating Yuan Shao's sons and other rival warlords. By 207 AD, he had successfully unified the entire northern plain. He was now at the peak of his power, controlling the most populous and productive part of the country. With the north secured, his gaze turned south towards the remaining warlords who controlled the lands along the Yangtze River, Liu Biao in Jing province and Sun Quan in the southeast. In 208 AD, Cao Cao led a massive army south, intending to finish the job and reunify all of China under his control. At first, everything went his way. Liu Biao died, and his successor quickly surrendered Jing province without a fight. Cao Cao's victory seemed inevitable. However, he had underestimated the resolve of his remaining opponents. Liu Bei, a distant relative of the Han imperial family and a charismatic leader in his own right, fled south and forged an unlikely alliance with the young and capable warlord Sun Quan. This set the stage for one of the most famous battles in all of Chinese history, the Battle of Red Cliffs. Cao Cao's massive fleet, comprised of ships from the newly surrendered Jing province, sailed down the Yangtze River to confront the allied forces of Sun Quan and Liu Bei. Cao Cao's army was exhausted from the long campaign, and his soldiers, mostly from the north, were not accustomed to naval warfare or the southern climate. The Allies, led by the brilliant strategist Zhou Yu, devised a clever plan. They sent a small squadron of ships pretending to surrender, but these ships were filled with flammable materials. As they approached Cao Cao's fleet, which was chained together to reduce seasickness, they were set ablaze. The fire spread rapidly, engulfing Cao Cao's entire navy. The result was a catastrophic defeat for Cao Cao. He barely escaped with his life, and his dream of quick unification was shattered. The Battle of Red Cliffs was a defining moment. It ensured that China would not be reunified for decades and firmly established the foundation for what would become the Three Kingdoms. Cao Cao retreated back to the north, his ambitions checked. Liu Bei took control of Jing province, giving him a vital base of operations, while Sun Quan solidified his rule over the southeast. The tripartite division of China was beginning to take shape. Despite this major setback, Cao Cao remained the most powerful man in the country. He spent the last decade of his life consolidating his rule in the north. He continued his military campaigns, mainly against warlords in the northwest and against Sun Quan in the east, but the borders remained largely static. He focused more on governance and administration, proving to be just as talented a statesman as he was a general. He promoted officials based on merit and ability, not just their family background, which was a radical idea for the time. He reformed the tax system, invested in infrastructure, and sponsored literature and the arts. Cao Cao himself was a gifted poet, and his works are still studied today for their raw emotion and powerful imagery. In 216 AD, he was granted the title of King of Wei, a step that brought him ever closer to officially replacing the Han dynasty. While he controlled the emperor and ruled as a de facto emperor, he never took that final step to formally usurp the throne himself. Perhaps he felt it was a line he couldn't cross, or maybe he simply didn't need the title. His power was absolute. In the year 220 AD, at the age of 65, Cao Cao died of a head ailment, likely a brain tumor. His final instructions were characteristically pragmatic. He asked for a simple burial and for his concubines and performers to be cared for. He left behind a stable and powerful state in northern China. Shortly after his death, his son, Cao Pi, forced Emperor Xian to abdicate and declared himself the first emperor of the Cao Wei dynasty, officially ending the 400-year-long Han dynasty. So, how do we remember Cao Cao? For centuries, traditional Chinese opera and novels, most famously Romance of the Three Kingdoms, have portrayed him as a cunning, cruel, and treacherous villain, the archetypal usurper. This is the image many people have of him, but history is rarely so black and white. He was also a brilliant military leader, a capable administrator who brought stability to a war-torn land and a patron of culture. He was a man of immense talent and ambition who rose to the top during one of the most chaotic periods in history. Hero or villain? Perhaps the best answer is that he was a product of his time, a complex, ruthless, and brilliant man who forever changed the course of Chinese history. Thanks for watching. What do you think of Cao Cao? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.